CNN were at my house yesterday because I always do every Rosh Hashana, and they had just came back because they were celebrating their 60th anniversary, and so I made a cake also, and I said happy anniversary with the 60. And of course you know what color I use for the decoration? Purple. Purple.
It had to be for everything.
No, they had a wonderful time. So I could see all the countries up there. So they had a good time.
Well, that's great. Yeah.
Hey, Brian.
What? That's right.
New Year. Happy New Year.
I need to caution you, Happy New Year. You're sitting right below the microphone, so anything that you say will be broadcast.
I won't say you.
Oh, you're welcome to this. Govern loudly.
I know it's there because last night I was sitting right over there.
Okay, so you've got the message.
Good to see you.
Happy New Year. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
So I'm Just a few notes as we begin to pray together this morning. We want to encourage you to sing along with everything, and even if your Hebrew isn't so great, please make use of the transliteration in the back of the Machzor, as well as we have some songs transliterated on the supplement, so make sure you have one of those. And I want to say a few words about kids, because we have various activities going on this morning in different spaces for them to be. Most of all, we encourage kids to be here in the sanctuary for our high holiday services. And that does mean that it's going to be a lively atmosphere, and that is what it means to be an intergenerational community, and that's what we are aiming for. To parents, just want to let parents know, kids are welcome to leave if they have to, and that's really your judgment call if your kids have had enough, and that is fine. We have childcare with a babysitter that needed to be reserved ahead of time, and that's through 3rd grade. But if there are kids over 3rd grade, like ages 9 and up, that need to leave, there is a quiet room in the religious school wing, and if they need to be not quiet, you can play outside until it rains. If your parents are okay with you playing in the rain. 4 through 7, during our Torah service and the sermon, that will be happening in the religious school wing with some of our religious school faculty, with John D. Nicola and Marjorie Lander and Eric Infeld. Many thanks to them for doing that today. And you will all be back in time to hear the shofar and to come up for the closing song, so don't worry about missing that. And lastly, for everybody, as we continue to try and create a sense of sacred space and time in this container, please turn off your cell phones. Please turn off your smartphones. Please make sure, just in case, look in your purse. If it's there, turn it all the way off. And that way we can really be in the moment together. So we are going to continue now with our blessings. Combining veins, arteries, and vital organs in a finely balanced system. Wondrous fashioner and sustainer of life, source of our health and our strength, we give you thanks and praise.
Elohai
on page 88. Sovereign of all the worlds, not in reliance upon the righteousness of our deeds do we place our longings before you. We look instead to your abundant mercy. For what are you? What is our life? What our faithfulness? What is our goodness and what our vaunted strength? What can we say in your presence, our God of all ages? Are not all the conquerors as nothing before you, and those of renown as though they had not been, the learned as if they had no knowledge, and the wise as if without understanding? Many of our works are vain, and our days pass away like a shadow. Our life would be altogether vanity were it not for the soul, which fashioned in your own image gives us assurance of our your covenant and call to your service. We therefore thank you and bless you and proclaim the holiness of your name. The bottom of page 89, our blessing for all the words of Torah we will encounter in our service. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu v'asot b'divrei Torah. Blessed is the eternal God, ruler of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot and who commands us to engage in the study of Torah. And here we have some Torah study. These are obligations without measure. Their fruit we eat now. Their essence remains for us in the life to come. To honor father and mother, to perform acts of love and kindness, to attend the house of study daily, to welcome the stranger, to visit the sick, to rejoice with bride and groom, to console the bereaved, to pray with sincerity, to make peace when there is strife. But the study of Torah is equal to them all. Eternal our God, make the words of your Torah sweet to us and to the house of Israel, your people, that we and our children may be lovers of your name and students of your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, the eternal one, teacher of Torah to Israel. Praise be the one who spoke and the world came to be. Praise be the source of creation. Praise be the one whose word is deed, whose law is wrath. Praise be the one whose compassion covers the earth and all its creatures. Praise be the living eternal God, ruler of the universe, source of our deliverance. With songs of praise we extol you and proclaim your sovereignty, our God and ruler, for you are the author of life in the universe. We praise you, sovereign God, to whom our praise is due. We continue with a psalm of praise. Hallelujah, page 94.
Makochai, Yivarech et Shimcha Adonai Eloheinu, L'ruach kol basar, Yitvaer u'romein, Zikra kama pim tamid, Min ha'olam v'yad ha'olam, Atayenu, Ein lanu melech elata.
Together on page 96. Though our mouths should overflow with song as the sea, our tongues with melody as the roaring waves, our lips with praise as the heavens' wide expanse. And though our eyes were to shine as the sun and the moon, our arms extend like eagle's wings, our feet speed swiftly as deer, still we could not fully thank you. Our God and God of all ages, bless your name enough, for even one of your infinite kindnesses to our ancestors and to us. Therefore, O God, limbs and tongue and heart and mind shall join to praise your name. Every tongue will yet affirm you, and every soul give you allegiance. As it is written, all my limbs shall say, who is like you, Eternal One? And David sang, bless the Eternal One, O my soul, and let all that is within me bless God's holy name. You are tremendous in power, O God, glorious in being, mighty forever, and awesome in your works.
Amen. Amen. Hayoshem al kisei ram v'nisa shokeinad ma'om v'kadosh shemo v'katuv ranenu tzadikim b'Adonai Leishavim navateilah.
We conclude our Psalms of Praise with this bracha, page 98. Baruch atah Adonai, El melech gadol v'tishbachot, El hapodaot, Adon haniflaot, Melech Elokei ha'olamim. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Sovereign God, the Author of wonders, who delights in song, the only One, the life of the universe. grace that crowns the sky with stars and keeps the planets on their ways. The law that turns our night to day and fills the eye with light. The love that keeps us whole and day by day sustains us. Blessed is the murmuring dark, blessed is light to the eyes. Oh, give thanks for life's renewal, the radiant return of the sun. The law has been our garden of delight. The law has been our life. In deepest darkness, we have held it fast. In the valley of tears, it has upheld us. Therefore shall we learn this law and reveal it to our children, our truth, our way, our joy. It makes us one, a single heart. United in love, we shall walk unafraid. Blessed is the law of love that gives us strength to live, and blessed the Torah that makes all Israel one. In that first liberation, our people saw revealed the power of the Most High. They perceived that God's presence redeems time and event from the hands of tyrants. We too affirm the power that makes for freedom. We sing the song that celebrates our deliverance. be seated. Words we are about to utter were born of the martyrdom of Rabbi Amnon of Mainz. He chose to die that his faith might live. He said, "Nitanet tokef kedushat hayom." Let us proclaim the sacred power of this day. It is awesome and full of dread. Now the divine judge looks upon our deeds and determines our destiny. A legend, and yet surely our deeds do not pass away unrecorded. Every word, every act inscribes itself in the book of life. Freely we choose, and what we have chosen to become stands in judgment over what we may yet hope to be. In our choices, we are not always free, but if only we make the effort to turn, every force of goodness within and without will help us while we live to escape that death of the heart which leads to sin. Awesome and full of dread. For on this day your dominion is exalted, your throne established in steadfast love. There in truth you reign. In truth you are judge and arbiter, counsel and witness. You write and you seal, you record and recount. You remember deeds long forgotten. You open the book of our days, and what is written there proclaims itself, for it bears the signature of every human being. The great shofar sounded, the still small voice was heard. The angels gripped by fear and trembling declare in awe, this is the day of judgment, for even the hosts of heaven are judged, as all who dwell on earth stand arrayed before you. As the shepherd seeks out the flock and makes the sheep pass under the staff, so do you muster and number and consider every soul, setting the bounds of every creature's life and decreeing its destiny.
Song
בחרב ומי בחיה, מי ברעב ומי בצמא, מי ברעש ומי במגפה, מי בחניתה ומי בסקילה. Rosh Hashana, Vikatehu, Uvyamsam Kibor, Yekatehu. Mi'anua, Umi'anua, Mi'ashkit, Umi'etorah. Mishaleh, Umi'yaseh, Mi'ani, Umi'ashir, Mi'ushtal, Umi'yahrut. On Rosh Hashana it is written, on Yom Kippur it is sealed. How many shall pass on? How many shall come to be? Who shall live and who shall die? Who shall see ripe age and who shall not? Who shall perish by fire and who by water? Who by sword and who by beast? Who by hunger and who by thirst? Who by earthquake and who by plague? Who by strangling and who by stoning? Who shall be secure and who shall be driven? Who shall be tranquil and who shall be troubled? Who shall be poor and who shall be rich? Who shall be humble and who exalted? But repentance, prayer, and charity temper judgment's severe degree. But that they should turn from their ways and live. Until the last day, you wait for them, welcoming them as soon as they turn to you. You have created us to know what we are. You are our flesh and blood. Our origin is dust, and dust is our end. Each of us is a shattered urn, grass that must wither, a flower that will fade. A shadow moving on, a cloud passing by, a particle of dust floating on the wind, a dream soon forgotten. But you are the sovereign, the everlasting God. Mekadesh et Shimcha ve'olam Yeshem sh'makdishim oto b'shnei Aaron K'katuv b'yad nimecha V'kara zel ze ve'amar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh
You may be seated. After the singing of L'Ador Vador, you're invited to continue praying silently, page 119. We add to all of our personal prayers a special personal prayer from one of our congregants. And we're going to invite up Terry Moran at this time to share the words of her heart.
I had always prided myself about being independent and helping other people. This story is not all about me. It is about the loving community of CBSRZ and my loving family, daughter Leah, son Jim, and my husband Howie of 53 years. The experience that I am sharing with you began on June 10, 1999. My husband and my 38th wedding anniversary. I had left work early because we had tickets for the Goodspeed. I was traveling from Meriden to Durham in our light pickup, crossing over from Route 68 to Route 17 in Durham. Carefully, slowly, I came to a red light. Suddenly, I heard a very large crash and felt a sharp pain in my head, through my neck, and back. The vehicle that hit me from behind was heavier and larger and was going faster. It pushed the box of my pickup into the back of my driver's seat in the cab. When I woke up, I was dazed and confused. I had been pushed from 68 right into the middle of 17 with the traffic going both ways. My whole life changed at that moment, and I had no idea what the future held. The ambulance and fire engine came, but my speech was difficult, and I could not wrap my tongue around the words that I was trying to say. Immediately, I was transformed from a highly functioning nurse, and in 1 second, I felt useless and embarrassed that I could no longer articulate my thoughts. My head hurt like it had never hurt before. I had no range of motion in my neck. I had not been able to drive ever since then. Everything got worse after that. I was ordered by the director of my division to apply for Social Security. Social Security? I wasn't old enough. But it was a disability. And that I would no longer be employed in my current position with the limitations that was set by my doctor felt very ashamed. The hospital told me I had to go to Social Security because the hospital could not abide by the doctor's orders when I returned to work. So I went to Social Security and I sat down, I was kind of mad, and I said, this is not my idea. The hospital made me come. The Social Security person taking my application at his fund, and he moved back and said, I wish I had more customers like you rather than those who are just seeking disability. I had no clue at that time as to how disabled I really was. And I thought, well, I won't get disability right away anyway, because when I fill out the applications for my patients who really need disability, they were always denied after a first try. Well, I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I received my eligibility notice for disability, and I felt worse and more ashamed. I was told I had a traumatic brain injury. Then my life changed again. Members of CBSRZ were very resourceful and came up to the plate and offered help for restoring my health. I have a long list of those people that helped me, and I'm going to give them names with the fear that I may leave someone out. So I hope you all know who you are and speak up if I miss anyone. Linda Regano suggested Tai Chi might be helpful, and it was. Quiet water kayaking led to more relaxation. People chipped in on lifting kayaks and giving rides since I could not drive. Stu Baker and Eric Bell offered rides, as did Linda Regano. Evelyn Foster took me out with my kayak and my saran wrap Hebrew so that I could get ready for my bat mitzvah, which had been my goal for many years. So when I told Melinda I didn't think I could do the bat mitzvah, she encouraged me and told me I could do it because I already knew all the prayers. Then she taught me Trot. Okay. Last year, Meg Ista was very helpful with music and singing. Last year, Barbara Beckerman recommended a doctor at Yale when the seizures began as a result of my brain injury. Beth Brewer and Linda Regano taught me gardening, which also nourished me quite a bit. Janie Pitney-Ray and Linda Sherman came with soup and care packages. Sue Sabat and Robin Freeman are two friends who support me, even with their busy schedules. So if I'm talking to you and turn around to leave, please don't take it personal. Most of you probably know by now that Jane, she makes suggestions that strengthen me. Everything that stresses you. From this experience, I learned to be humble with acceptance of the situation and understand I have to accept help from others rather than always be a helper. And I couldn't have all the fun, so I had to share it. read with me on page 118. Starting with the third line down. How does solitary life becomes a link in Israel's golden chain? For what we are by sharing. That light may shine brighter than 1,000 suns with the presence. I constantly pray for myself that I will pay attention to my health so that I won't lose everything. So, I also am praying, was a former member of the synagogue today that I talked to yesterday. She misses us very much. Her name is Linda Polonsky, and she used to sing in our choir, and she's really good. She misses us very much. She wanted me to tell you that she does. And she's going to a reform synagogue today that has a choir. And so I just wanted to give you that. That's a blessing for us. Okay, so I'm gonna continue on. Oh, at this time of the new year, pray for all of those suffering. Okay. I say the serenity prayer, I don't know how many times a day. God, give me the power to accept the things I cannot change. The courage to change the things I can. And the wisdom to know the difference. Now, I was young when I learned that, and I didn't know what wisdom was. But now I do. Okay. So, I pray for peace consistently every day, though some people tell me when they see my peace sign, they go, we'll never have peace. But I do believe that peace will come, and that the hate and the evil in the world will at some point be replaced by the gift of loving people. I think there's always a positive attitude in every situation, and I'm grateful for what God has given me and what He hasn't given me in my 77 years of life. I have gratitude for everyone here that helped me, and you know who you are, and I feel like it's my family, which it really is. So I want to say, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. I wanted to mention Wendy Baya, because I'm very grateful. She was very helpful for me too. She has a lot of hats, you know, and she wears them well, and with a pleasant attitude. She's always helpful with solving problems, getting the job done, requested by everyone, never turning anyone down. I pray that her positive attitude becomes contagious and results in extended cooperation. So I also am grateful for Kate Cotton and her daughter, Alan. They light up our lives with their enthusiasm youth group. They are very inspiring. I think I shall end with gratitude to all of the committee heads who create a very active, warm, and positive environment in our synagogue. And I am just so grateful to be a member of the synagogue. Thank you for listening.
Amen. At this time, as we turn to our Torah service, we invite all of our 4th through 7th graders to head out. They already haven't. To head out with Laura Eric, Laura Marjorie, Laura John to the wing. The wing. Our Torah service begins on page 120. Please read responsibly with me on page 121. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lechanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu V'al Ulalenu V'Tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei Dever V'Cherev V'Ra'av Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, make amends to sickness, war, and famine.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei Kol Tsar U'Mastin Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, make amends to all oppression.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kodvenu B'Sefer Chayim Tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, inspire us for blessings in the book of life.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chadish Aleinu Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, let the new year be a good year for us.
Avinu Malkeinu, Malei Yadeinu Miberchotecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, fill our hands with blessings.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu V'Anenu, Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim, Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'Chesed V'Hoshienu.
Avinu Malkeinu, be gracious and answer us, for we have never learned your generosity and kindness and your love.
Avinu
Adonai is merciful and gracious, endlessly patient, loving, and true, showing mercy to thousands, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin, and granting pardon. O house of Jacob, come, let us walk by the light of our God.
Israel.
address the Torah. This morning, Belinda will be chanting from the traditional reading for the first day of Rosh Hashana. And we are reading from a section of Parashat Vayera. And you'll find the translation on page 4 in the supplement if you'd like to follow along. For our first aliyah this morning, we call up Doron and Eve there. Over there. There we go. Ya'antu Doron ben Yasol Esther bat Yehuda Aliyah Harishona. Our second aliyah this morning goes to my family members who are here today. So come on up. I have my husband Jim, my sister Dahlia, my parents Joyce and Erwin. And I think I should be able to do all the Hebrew names. Let's see. Ya'amdu Yaakov ben Abraham v'Sarah, V'Dahlia bat Yitzchak v'Yentol bat Abraham v'Ruth, V'Yitzchak ben Tuvia, V'Pesia la'aliyah ha'sheni.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamorah le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamorah le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Elohim, all Hashem Yitzchak Vatomer, Bibilel Abraham, Kavani, Sarah, Kilatibei, Vizkunan, Vayigav Hayavet Nigamah, Vayas Abraham, Ishteh Gadol, Beyom, Yigamel et Yitzchak, Vateret Sarah et Ben Hagar, Yigamel, sorry, Yigamel et Yitzchak.
Yeah, go ahead. Redo.
Amen. Abraham b'mei hashana, v'havalet lo, Yitzchak b'no, v'tomer Sarah teho, asali Elohim, kol hashomea Yitzchak li, v'tomer Hillel Abraham, Eini Kavani Sarah, Vilati Be'el Vizkunan.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chaye olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Our third aliyah goes to Hadass and Matthew Rubin. Ya'amdu Hadass bat Michael Zahava. V'Matisyahu ben Yitzchak u'Devorah la'aliyah ha'shlishit. Baruch Adonai Hamorah le'olam va'ed.
אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את טובתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Vayikach Hayavet Vayigamam, Vayas Abraham, Ishteh Gadol, Beyom Yigamel et Yitzchak, Vateret Sarah et Ben Hagar,
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נתן בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, נותן התורה.
Our fourth aliyah goes to Marilyn and Jean Calitz. Ya'amdu Malka bat Abraham v'Yehuda ben David la'aliyah harvivit. Our fifth aliyah this morning goes to Larry Bloom and Suzanne Levine. Ya'amdu Lev ben Abraham ben Miriam v'Rivka bat Hershel aliyah ha'chamishi.
Baruch hu Adonai HaBorach. Baruch Adonai HaBorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Arche
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
So while we're waiting for the next call, I just want to mention this year, because I've done this portion a few years now, and I really want you to try to, as I'm reading it, also remember the English story, because this is a heart-rendering story, guys. I mean, I don't know if you follow along the English, I would encourage you to do so. And I'm finding actually, because I'm not fluent in this, I wish I was, but I'm not, and my brain is fluent in the part. But, the stroke is meant to tell the story, and it means a lot, and I know there's a lot of adults here who have gone through the process who know what it means to tell stories from the Torah, and use the Torah cancellation to do that. And yeah, I don't know if it makes a difference or not, so I'm willing to sacrifice it when I mess up a little bit in line with switching places. And that's what I'm going for, because that's what this is about, is telling a story. If I miss a letter, or if I dropped a line, that's what we do, we come back and we fix it.
Yeah, and I want to say that the trope that we just heard, which was very elaborate and was lengthening, was the most heart-rending part of the story.
Yeah.
Which I'll be speaking about later. For our sixth and final aliyah this morning, we call it Genethicovics. Ta'amod Shoshana bat Job Rachel la'aliyah hashishi. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach v'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai hamvorach v'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Osher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Amen. Vayishma Elohim et kol hana'ar vayikra malach Elohim el hadar in hashamayim vayomer la malach hadar al tir'i Shema Elohim el kol hana'ar asher usham Omi se'i et hana'ar v'hachaziki et yadeko Ileloi gadol asimenu Vayikach Elohim et elecha v'teleh v'yemayim v'teleh v'tmaleh et ha'chemat mayim v'tash et hanar Vayehi Elohim et hana'ar vayidal Vayeshev zemidbar Vayehi roveh hashat Vayeshev zemidbar aran Vatikach lo imo Isha me'eret Yisrael
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. We offer a
prayer for healing now, Aramisha Berach. And I'm aware that many of our members of our congregation and loved ones of members are currently ill or in treatment, and some folks are here with us today, some are not. Some might be with us via our live streaming. Our hearts are with all of those in need of healing of body, mind, and spirit, and of course with all who care for them and love them. And I'm going to invite you, although we're not going to be able to hear each individual name, if you'd like to speak any names of folks you're thinking of out into the space, or just hold them in your hearts at this moment, we'll fill the room with love for them. So if you can just say their names now. Names for
Adonai,
turn now to our Haftarah for the morning, which comes from the book of Samuel. And we have, as we had in our Torah portion, we have a barren woman who miraculously gives birth to a son. And you can find it starting on page 128 in Hebrew, 129 in English. This is the story of Hannah. And it's my pleasure to invite Sean Conaghy to read us the story, and I will introduce it as a blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nbi'im tovim, v'ratzav b'divrehem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'b'nbi'ei ha'emet ha'tzedek.
So here we have, as the rabbi said, another story of a woman who is unexpectedly God opens her womb and she gives birth. The only other thing I would say is, just as with Abraham and Isaac, we know that Abraham is going to be put to a test, and Isaac is going to have to be sacrificed. So to Hannah's son Samuel, so to Samuel's son, Hannah's son Samuel will also be devoted and sanctified to God. So here is the Haftarah. There was a man from Ramathaiim, a Zuphite, from the highlands of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Yerucham. He had two wives, one named Hannah and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. This man used to go up from his town annually to worship and to offer sacrifice to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. There Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of the Lord. When Elkanah offered a sacrifice, he would give portions to Peninnah, his wife, and to each of her sons and daughters. But although he loved her, he would give to Hannah only one portion, since the Lord had made her barren. Her rival would torment her about her misfortune that the Lord had made her barren. This went on year by year. When they went up to the house of the Lord, her rival would so torment her that she would weep and not eat. Elkanah would say to her, Hannah, why do you weep? Why don't you eat? Why are you so unhappy? Am I not dearer to you than 10 sons? Once Hannah rose after they had eaten in Shiloh and went to the temple of the Lord, at whose entrance was sitting Eli, the priest. In bitter grief she prayed to the Lord, weeping copious tears. She took a vow, saying, Lord of hosts, if you take notice of your servant's affliction, if you keep me in mind, and do not forget your servant, giving your servant a son, I will dedicate him to the Lord for life. As she continued to pray before the Lord, Eli's attention was drawn to her lips. Hannah was praying silently, though her lips were moving. She made no sound, so that Eli took her for a drunkard. Eli said to her, how long do you propose to carry on drunk like this? Get rid of your wine. You mistake me, my lord, Hannah replied. I am a sober woman. I have had neither wine nor liquor. but have been pouring out my heart before the Lord. Do not think your servant so debased. All this time I have been speaking out of my great sorrow and grief. Then Eli replied, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant your request. May your humble servant always find favor in your sight, she said. So the woman went on her way. She ate and was downcast no longer. Early in the morning they arose, worshipped before the Lord, and returned to their home in Ramah. Then the Lord was mindful of her. In due time, Hannah conceived and gave birth to a son, whom she named Samuel, saying, I asked him of the Lord and was heard. When she had weaned him, she brought him up to the house of the Lord at Shiloh, together with a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of meal, and a skin of wine, though he was still but a child. They slaughtered the bull and brought the lad to Eli. Then she said, O my Lord, I am the woman who stood near you, right here, praying to the Lord. It was for this lad that I prayed, and the Lord has granted my request. I therefore dedicate him to the Lord. So long as he lives, he is dedicated to the Lord. And they worship the Lord there.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzadik b'chol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'oseh, hamdaber u'mekayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'dim ve'al yom hazikaron hazeh, שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוקינו, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוקינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד, ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה, אדוני, מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל. ביום הזיכרון. There is Hagar. We see her sitting in an empty wilderness, weeping. Her mistress Sarah has banished her, fearing that Hagar's son Ishmael would usurp Sarah's son Isaac's inheritance. Abraham, Hagar's master, and Ishmael's father sent them away with only a skin of water and some bread. And now the water is gone, the bread is gone, and Hagar can't bear to watch her child die of thirst. She lifts up her voice and weeps. And God opens her eyes. She looks up and sees a well of water. It was there all along. There is Abraham. We see him up on the mountain. His arm is raised, the knife in his hand. Isaac, his son, is bound on the altar beneath him. He is about to sacrifice his own son. But an angel calls out to him, stopping him at the last possible moment. Abraham looks up and sees a ram caught in the thicket. It was there all along. Vayera, and it was seen. This is the name of the Torah portion assigned to this day of Rosh Hashana. And it was seen. What did we see this year? In our own hearts and out there in the world? How might we have averted our gaze, and from whom? How might we have looked directly at reality, eyes unobstructed? In what ways have we been blind to what was there all along, waiting to be seen? The Torah portion assigned for these 2 days of Rosh Hashanah is itself very hard to look at. Today we have Abraham and Sarah banishing one son, Ishmael, and then tomorrow we have Abraham brought to the verge of killing his other son, Isaac. These are not fun stories. They are violent and sad. And in the case of Abraham's almost sacrifice of his son, very hard to understand. Every year I try to find a way to not have to talk about this Torah portion. God help me. It is so difficult and so dark. And every year it reappears right in front of my eyes. I can't seem to make it go away. But perhaps this is precisely the kind of story we should be wrestling with today. This day, when we're supposed to take a magnifying glass to our own lives and to the world and see what is really there. Because we know that this is really hard. Hard not to look away, especially when what's there is sad or painful or broken. As many of you know, over the past several years I've been studying and practicing mindfulness meditation in a Jewish context. Part of mindfulness meditation is to regularly sit still and quiet and to watch the mind, noting what is there, watching. Whether to see if what is there is pleasant or unpleasant. One of the most challenging aspects of this practice is to stay with the unpleasant when it arises. Whether it is doubt or anxiety, anger, sadness, physical discomfort, the mind will typically try to flee the unpleasant. Instead of staying with the unpleasant feeling, the mind will do things like make plans to fix the unpleasantness, or start blaming myself, or it will blame someone else, or find something more pleasant to think about, or find some reason to stop meditating, maybe go get something to eat. I've found, though, that when I can see the unpleasant, and then just allow myself to sit and feel the feeling, it actually eventually fades away. It is only a temporary visitor. Over the summer, as the cycle of violence escalated in Israel and Gaza, I had many opportunities to watch how my mind handles unpleasant thoughts and feelings. For the first couple weeks of the hostilities, I found myself obsessively scrolling through Facebook, reading articles and analysis for hours and hours. After way too many late nights of this, I found myself emotionally and physically fatigued.
This was not a wholesome way of dealing with the unpleasant. It's interesting because I wasn't avoiding knowing about what was happening, but by immersing myself in Facebook, I was actually avoiding watching my own experience of what was happening. The fact that I was feeling scared, angry, sad, and very, very anxious. And I was not alone. During the period when the 3 kidnapped Israeli teenagers' bodies had not yet been found, a congregant admitted to me that she had been checking Facebook and news feeds every time she had a spare moment during her workday, and then on into the night. What helped her to stop the cycle was a memorial service that we held at the synagogue. She shared that having that delineated time and space set aside to pray and reflect and to feel helped her make a choice. Even though she couldn't actively do much to solve the situation or to make it go away, she also could choose not to obsess about it anymore. I too found that after being still and looking right at my thoughts and feelings about the situation, whether while I was preparing and delivering sermons, or leading that service, that memorial service, or facilitating a dialogue we had about the situation, I had to really focus on what I truly felt during those moments, and at those moments I felt free of my obsession that was keeping me up all night. After sitting with and really looking at my heaviness and confusion, after talking about it with others and hearing their heaviness and confusion, after singing and praying about it, after allowing my heart to break and tears to flow, I was no longer overwhelmed, and the impulse to distract myself melted away, and I was free to choose what I was going to read and when. Many of us try, whether intentionally or unconsciously, to avoid sitting with our own brokenness. We cover over the pain or confusion with consumption and busyness. Or we look away from the brokenness to our Twitter feeds or other forms of distraction. Our sacred calendar is therefore so very wise. It gives us this season of awe where we're trapped in this room. And we are forced to look inside and to look back at the year and to sit with it. We're invited to do teshuvah, to turn with compassion and gentleness towards whatever is unwhole. And for a delineated time, we get to know the unpleasant pieces of our lives, whether it is regret or fear or loneliness or grief. Before this, or perhaps the stories from Torah and the music and the prayer can even allow our hearts to break. It's kind of strange to think that breaking your heart is a good thing. Over the years, folks have shared with me, often sheepishly, that they'll sometimes find themselves crying in services. And they're a little embarrassed and they don't quite know why. There are so few places when we feel safe to let our hearts break. There are so few places where we can do that in a community. And this is one of those places. In our Torah portion, when Hagar runs out of water in the desert, she can't bear to look at her child as he suffers. So she casts him a distance away under a bush. But then she lifts up her voice and she begins to weep. She allows herself to really feel her pain. And this is the moment when transformation occurs. God immediately enters the scene and opens her eyes. Now that she is seeing clearly,
she realizes she has a choice. She can retrieve her child, drink from the well, and find a way forward. Vayera, and it was seen. When the broken pieces of our minds, our hearts lie out in the open, we are no longer overwhelmed. We can see clearly and are free to examine the pieces. Having done so, we know our thoughts and feelings for what they are. Temporary visitors. Change, choice, teshuvah, turning, is now possible. Another scene earlier in the parashah that always breaks my heart is when Abraham sends Hagar and their son Ishmael off into the wilderness. Sarah orders her husband Abraham to banish these outsiders to protect Isaac's inheritance, and God backs her up. Separation is necessary for the future of both Isaac and Ishmael's peoples. Abraham understands this, and God assures him that Ishmael, like Isaac, will be the father of a great nation. But the Torah tells us that the matter distressed Abraham greatly. Nevertheless, Abraham gets up early in the morning, he takes the bread and the water, he gives them to Hagar. The Torah tells us he placed them over her shoulder together with the child and sent her away. Abraham knows what he has to do, but at the same time, he knows that he is causing great suffering, and this distresses him. It is so hard to watch. Vayera, and it is seen. It's striking that the Torah would tell the story in this way. The text clearly intends to evoke empathy within us as we watch Abraham send Hagar and Ishmael away. Remarkable that we read this story about the suffering of non-Jews precisely on one of the most important days of the Jewish year. Hagar is Egyptian. She's from the land of our people's mythic, epic enemy. Precisely now, as we look at ourselves and reflect on our actions and our year, our tradition asks us to gaze closely at the suffering of the enemy. This past summer, I felt that tension that Abraham is feeling, that pull between knowing what you have to do to protect yourself and knowing that it will cause others to suffer. As we learned of the murder of the 3 kidnapped Israeli young men and then watched Hamas shoot rockets as far as Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and even beyond, it was clear to me that Israel had to defend itself and that this could not continue. The towns in southern Israel, such as Sderot and Ashkelon, had been living under fire for years already, and now a huge segment of the population in Israel is running for cover and spending way too much time in bomb shelters. This time it really hit home. 2 of my cousins were wounded in the first week of the ground invasion and ended up in a hospital in Beersheba. I just got an update that the ophthalmologists are fighting to save one cousin's eye, and that the other is undergoing physiotherapy for a leg injury, and was told it will take about a year to get back to good health. Israel clearly had to do something, and I did not feel the need to apologize for Israel's response. At the same time, I felt like I was staring into the abyss. And Abraham reached out for the knife to slay his son. The death and destruction that the Israeli airstrikes caused in Gaza was horrifying to watch. It was painful to look directly at the fact that they were killing hundreds of innocent civilians, so many of them children. We cannot avert our gaze from the reality of that suffering.
When I look back at the Gaza war this summer, I understand that this is what it means for the Jewish people and the state of Israel to have political and military power. We can finally defend ourselves. But when we spill innocent blood in our own self-defense, our hearts cry out. And the world, and perhaps we too, hold ourselves to an impossible standard. Like Isaac, we are bound so tightly. We are in an impossible position, trying to protect ourselves and act morally when the enemy uses children as human shields. And yet, at the last possible moment, God stays Abraham's hand. Abraham lifts up his eyes, and there is a ram caught in the thicket. At that last possible moment, Hagar lifts up her eyes, and there is a well of water. Perhaps Hagar and Abraham are teaching us something here, that there is another way. Both of them are caught up in what they think is the only way. They are only seeing one way forward, lifting the knife, casting away the child. My mindfulness teacher, Rabbi Sheila Peltz-Weinberg, was in Israel this summer during the rockets and the sirens and the airstrikes. And when she returned, she reflected with me that the most confused state is the state of war. War is the ultimate state of not seeing clearly. Perhaps Hagar and Abraham are teaching us that if we would lift our eyes and see clearly, we would see that we do not have to give over our children or other people's children to a continuing cycle of violence and retribution. There is a way back. There is a choice. We have done it before. We can look at our enemy, talk to our enemy, and yes, someday, perhaps at the last possible moment, make peace with our enemy. Our rabbis teach us that the well and the ram were both created at the beginning of time, on the eve of the seventh day of creation, at the last possible moment of creation. That moment also happens to be the eve of the very first Rosh Hashana. Sometimes we find ourselves at the very edge of the abyss, in the depths of confusion, of striking out and striking back and casting away before we can see clearly. But the answer has been there all along. All we have to do is lift our eyes up out of the abyss, and it can be seen. And then we can grab the ram by the horns, take a long drink of water from the well, stop sacrificing our children, and bring what we all need to this world: some wholeness, some peace. If the kids aren't back yet, make sure that your kids come on back because it is time for the shofar service. Good. Tears help us feel joy. Ah, that was good. Are they coming? Yeah, coming. Okay. They're all here? All right. Want to make sure the kids from childcare are here as well? Okay. All right. So. Just a few words of introduction to our shofar service. First of all, this year we will again be bringing some elevated joy to this service with the song Ashrei Ha'am. And you can find that in your supplement on the bottom of the first page. So just keep that handy. This song embodies in music the sound of the shofar, the truah sound, the broken sound. That one? And the sound is meant to express the brokenness of our lives and our world and to give us hope that we have the power to bring loving kindness and compassion and healing, justice. Many of us may remember and associate that sound of the shofar with solemnity, but it can also be a happy sound. In fact, in the Bible, the word truah is usually used to mean to shout with joy. So just a review of the words. Ashrei ha'am yod'ei truah. It's from Psalm 89. And the words mean, happy is the people that knows the sound of truah. And then it says, tzedek u'mishpat mechon pis'echa. Justice and righteousness are the foundation of your throne. Chesed ve'emet yikadmu fanecha. Kindness and truth will precede you, coming to herald God's presence. So Truah is also the name of a human rights organization that I'm a part of. It's a rabbinic and cantorial human rights organization. And this song was actually commissioned by our organization to capture the urgency of pursuing human rights and to also celebrate our accomplishments. So we get to do that too. We'll be singing the song 3 times after each sounding of the shofar while the ark is still moving. So just be prepared for that choreography. A couple more notes, though. First, this year we're sending our prayers to Harvey Redak, and I don't know if he actually is here in the room. Maybe he did not make it. But to Harvey and Justine, as Harvey continues to seek healing and recovery from lung cancer. He was really hoping to be here to blow at least one tekiah today, but he's just not ready. But he has blown shofar here for many years, and we really miss that offering, and I want to recognize that. And also recognize that we are blessed to have Joe Gister and Rita Christopher blowing shofar for us today. And I'll call them up a little later. One last thing. Over the years, some of you have suggested to me that we should try having the shofar heard from various parts of the sanctuary. So this year we're going to experiment with that. We're going to have Joe up here. We're going to have Rita in the back blowing shofar. And yeah, look now. Look now. Great. So she's back there. Okay. But there she is. When she's blowing the shofar, Rita does not expect you to look at her. It's really all right to stay facing this way or to close your eyes. The point is to really hear the shofar coming from various places in the room. So, enough of that. Okay. Let's blow that shofar. Page 138. In the 7th month, on the 1st day of the month, there shall be a sacred assembly, a cessation from work, a day of commemoration proclaimed by the sound of the shofar. Please rise. And we invite William
You may be seated. On page 141, this is when the king enters. The Torah proclaims, your eternal God is with you. Shout acclaim to your sovereign. The psalmist returns, lift up your heads, O gates. Lift yourselves up, O ancient doors. Let the one who reigns in glory enter. Who is it that reigns in glory? The God of all kings, the one who reigns in glory. The prophet declares, I am the first and I am the last. I am the only one. As it is written in the Torah, hear, O Israel, return unto God, return unto us. We rise again now for the opening of the Ark and invite up William Brownstein and his son Aaron to open the Ark. And I'm going to call our shofar blowers, Joey Gister and Rita Christopher, to their places.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'en b'yanu, v'hi emanu, v'hi
Tekiah.
Zikaronot, remembrance. God has not forgotten us. Page 145, the bottom. Hey kiddos, if you want to come sit over here, you can. Come close. You can sit on the beam, sit on the chairs, be comfortable. It's all right. Come close. All right. Yeah, sit on the row. All right. Good. Front row seat. The Torah proclaims, God heard the enslaved people's groaning and remembered the covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The psalmist affirms, remember your covenant with us. Your great love you comforted us. The prophet declares, I will remember the covenant I made with you in the days of your youth, and I will establish with you an everlasting covenant.
As is written in the Torah, I will remember the covenant with your ancestors who led out of Egypt, to slice thy nations, to be their God, but I am the eternal God.
Our God and God of all generations, remember us with favor and grant us your compassionate deliverance. Remember your love for us, the covenant you made with Abraham on Mount Moriah. Remember his boundless love for you, his willingness to offer you all that was his. Show us your compassion then, and in your goodness look with favor upon your people and your loved ones. For you are the one who remembers all that has been forgotten. There is no forgetfulness in your presence. Blessed is the eternal one who remembers the covenant. Please rise as we open the ark and call up Jeffrey and Karen Mosley. Tekiah, Shivarim Teruah, Tekiah, 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 Shivarim. Happy are the people who know the sound of Truah. Shofarot, Revelation, the world does not always have to be this way. The Torah proclaims, as the third day dawned at Sinai, there was thunder and lightning, a dense cloud over the mountain, and a loud blast of the shofar. The people trembled. The psalmist affirms,
God stands revealed in manifestation. Eternal one is the sound of the shofar.
The prophet declares, all you who dwell on earth, who inhabit the world, when the banner is raised, take note, and when the shofar is sounded, take heed.
As it is written, the eternal will hear, God's arrow will flash like lightning. The eternal God will cause the shofar to be sounded, and strike forth with the storm winds of the sky. Thus, O God, will you shield your people with peace.
Baruch atah Adonai shomea kol shu'at amo Yisrael v'rachamim. Our God and God of all generations, sound the great shofar to proclaim our freedom. Raise the banner for the redemption of the oppressed. Signal liberty for all who are in exile. Bring lasting joy to Zion and to Jerusalem, your holy city.
We praise you, the merciful God, who hearkens to the sound of the shofar.
Please rise as we open the ark. Great God. Tehiyah.